All right, folks, welcome back to the Weight Concept presented by The Ring Magazine. It just happened. Terence Crawford just beat Canelo Alvarez decisively to become the new super middleweight undisputed champion of the world, 3 times undisputed, and I'm just going to say it, he's one of the greatest boxers of all time. We have to talk about it all, the breakdown. Let's go. So, folks, like I said, this is insane what has just happened between Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez. And I'll be the first to admit it, I was completely wrong about how this fight would go. I know you guys are going to let me know in the comments, but let's legitimately talk about this. Terence Crawford just decisively beat Canelo Alvarez. He didn't just narrowly beat him. He didn't just get a robbery or slim decision. No, he decisively beat Canelo Alvarez, and he did it by just being the better boxer. That's legitimately what we saw tonight. Terence Crawford outboxed Canelo Alvarez, and he didn't just do it by being on the back foot and running. Before you get in the comment section doing that, I'm giving you the Matumbo finger wag. Nada. That's not what happened. He was able to, yes, use his legs when needed, but when he was also on the offensive, on the attack, he was sitting in that pocket, and he was able to catch the shots from Canelo, counter, catch, counter, catch, counter. He had far more fundamental discipline with his boxing that Canelo did. And we knew coming into this fight, it was going to be a question of how would Terence Crawford respond to the power punching of Canelo. And quite frankly, he ate it up and asked for some more. He was talking to Canelo throughout this entire fight, and Canelo showed what we thought potentially would get him in trouble in this fight, which was one shot at a time, allowing Terence Crawford to utilize the ring, not being able to cut him off, not being able to get to him. And even when he did step to Terence Crawford and got in that space, in the pocket, Crawford was beating him there as well. It wasn't just that Crawford was jabbing on the outside and circling. He was beating him in the pocket. When he needed to use his legs, he would. And when he was able to stay in that pocket, he was landing 1, 2, 3 at a time to Canelo's one stagnant shot at a time. It was very evident from round 1 all the way through that Terence Crawford, when he was able to match Canelo's intensity and even go past it, Canelo couldn't match him. And that was something I did not anticipate. Also, Terence, at moments when Canelo started to pressure him and get in his face and hit him with big punches, and it felt like maybe the momentum was turning, Terence squashed all of that, right? He took water and threw it on the fire. If Canelo was starting to burn, he was starting to quell and find ways to be offensive and be successful, getting to range, even though Canelo's jab was almost non-existent tonight. I don't know where that was, but he wasn't able to capitalize. Anytime he built momentum, Terence got right back on that front foot, met him in the pocket, and met him with big counter shots. Again, while Canelo threw one, was the right hook, was the left hook to the body, was the chopping right hand over the top, Terence was catching, or even if he was getting hit, he was finding a way to answer back with punches that were more crisp, more tight, more fundamentally sound. While Canelo, even when he was able to get to range, which wasn't a lot, it wasn't often, he was having a hard time landing clean because everything was super wide and out here and to the body out there. And Crawford would either circle out to that same side, to Canelo's lead hand side. He would circle away because Canelo would step straight to Crawford and chase him and not necessarily cut him off. And even when he threw that hook, I was looking for the hook from Canelo, right hand as he stepped through, right? Corral with the lead hand, bang the right hand because you're fighting a southpaw. So, yeah, your jab may not be as effective in landing and managing distance and all those things, even though for Terence it kind of was. For Canelo, I was expecting a lot more of that right hand down the middle and over the top, and him jabbing his way, feint jab right hand, and then that lead hook that I thought he would be able to corral Crawford, because Crawford did want to move away from Canelo. He did. He wanted to move away from that power hand. Smart to do. Canelo never took that extra step to step outside of Crawford's lead foot. Again, that orthodox southpaw matchup, it's always going to be a battle of that lead foot. He never took that next step to get outside of that lead foot and then step through Crawford, step to his left where Crawford was going and land his right hand. He just felt like he was falling off to his right with his right hand, and once he fell off to his right after he threw the right hand, there was no follow-ups because he was off balance, and Crawford was out the gate and circling back to reset the action. This was a masterful display from Terence Crawford. And again, I looked at this fight, and I don't want to do the thing where I said, oh, Canelo's washed. He's over the top. He's old. Terence Crawford's older than Canelo. Is he as weathered as far as fights are concerned? No. But you can only do one thing when talking about this fight, and that is give credit to Terence Crawford. If you want to say Canelo looked old, that's fine. That's on you. I'm not going to say that. I think that Canelo looks a bit stagnant. Yes, I think his footwork is not the greatest, but Canelo, as a pound-for-pound great, as someone that has been able to move up, it's because his power carry. It's because as he's moved up, some of those guys have been a little slower, and he's been able to utilize his speed as an advantage even while moving up in weight, because while he's not the greatest mover from his feet up, he is from his waist up, and he's been able to make guys miss and make them pay with his hand speed. Terence Crawford had faster hand speed tonight, and it was because everything was here. When he got outside, everything came back. When he was there, back. And it was really just super impressive to watch, and that's why I don't want to take away anything by calling Canelo washed or old. I don't want to hear that. We said coming into this, if either guy won, they should get the credit. But for Terence Crawford to move up from 147 to 154, really from 135 to 140 to 147 to 154, then go, you know what? Forget 160. I'm going to 168 and become the undisputed champion at super middleweight, making his third undisputed championship. That is history-making stuff. That's the legacy win he needed. That is the biggest win of his career, and it speaks to how he prepared, to how he put himself in the best position possible, his build, his frame. He's got a crazy reach, by the way, for 5'9". He's got like a 75-inch reach. He utilized it all. And again, it was confidence throughout the fight. Look at the last round of the fight. Forget the first rounds and where Terence was boxing well and he was on the back foot a little more. He was moving. As the fight went on, he adjusted to the intensity Canelo was bringing, and he was able to do it in a way that was not only just, it was smart because he was on his bike when he needed to be, and then he would sit down in that pocket, and especially early in the rounds, he would trade with Canelo and win those exchanges. He would get the better of Canelo in the spots where you thought Canelo would get the better of Terence Crawford. And Caleb Plant told me this before the fight when I interviewed him. He said Crawford would be better when he was on his jab on the way out, like fully extended at jab range, long range, or fully inside the pocket. And man, was he right. Shouts to Caleb Plant, because when Terence Crawford was all the way in and it was a matter of make you miss, make you pay, go back and look at some of those replays. The sneaky shots Terence was hitting him with, the check hooks, boom, on the inside. Just little stuff, bang. Little stuff, boom, boom. And it didn't take a lot of effort because Canelo was coming in with full force like Canelo throws. He throws everything hard. So when he was coming in and winging out those shots, everything was out here, and here comes Terence Crawford. Bang, on the inside. Boom, bang, on the inside. Before Canelo could get to the punch, Terence Crawford had already countered and had followed up with 2 or 3 more. And this is not to say Canelo didn't have any success. He did in moments, in spurts, in rounds. And Canelo did win maybe 3, 4 rounds. I know it was 116, 112, and then 2 115, 113s. It was not that close to me. And again, we know Canelo fighting in Vegas, things are going to look a little closer on those scorecards than maybe they actually are. But regardless, the right decision was made. I thought it would look more like a 9-3, 8-4 fight. Maybe some people are going to go crazy and say it was 12-0. I don't know about all that. But it was a definitive, dominant, decisive win for Terence Crawford. And I think the most important thing and the most impressive thing about it was when it was time to dog it out, when it was time to meet in the pocket, whether it was Canelo doing the chasing or Crawford coming out aggressive, Crawford was willing to answer that. And it got to the point where Crawford felt Canelo couldn't hurt him. And that was super impressive to me. I said this a second ago. Go back and look at that last round. Look at round 12 and the end of the fight where Canelo he's a bit stumbling all over himself because he's a little bit more frustrated. And that's something I also saw that I was pretty surprised at, was Canelo being a bit more frustrated in this fight, visibly. Body language. The things that you don't usually see out of a stoic Canelo Alvarez, where you think at any point he could turn the fight with his power, with his boxing IQ, with his defense. That went out the window late in this fight, and you could see Canelo get a bit more frustrated, having to reset himself and get back to work. And it wasn't because he was frustrated with the way Terence Crawford was fighting. He was frustrated because he couldn't win. He couldn't win the exchanges. Couldn't get to Terence. He would start, Terence would jab him, make him reset. He'd start, Terence on the inside, hit him with something, circle, reset. And it was something I've never seen from Canelo in a fight. that body language. But in that 12th round, I watched Terence sit down on punches, turn, and go after Canelo and hit him with some big stuff. There were multiple points in this fight where each guy got clipped with some big shots, but Terence has felt like the stronger guy. I got to be honest. He felt like the shots he was landing were bigger. That straight left hand, the left hand around the guard, leaving the welt on Canelo's eye. The most damage Canelo landed was to the body, I felt, in this fight. And if you thought that Canelo's body work was going to slow Terence Crawford down, you thought it was going to slow him to the point where it was going to make a difference, it just didn't. And whether that was because Canelo didn't land a ton or because Terence had just built into the weight class the right way, and the weight truly did not make a difference. So for the people that tried to tell me, you were right. I was wrong. The weight class, the weight for Canelo didn't make a difference. Now, if that's another bigger 168-pounder, maybe it would. But Canelo wasn't, and the weight didn't matter. And that's just the truth of the entire thing. The weight just wasn't as big a deal as I thought it was going to be. And Terence Crawford was a much better boxer than Canelo was, which I expected. But I did expect Canelo's power and his sustainability to be better this time around. I expected him to be a bit more volume heavy with his jab. But Terence just shut all of that down. It wasn't like Canelo just couldn't, maybe it was a mindset thing. I don't know. But Terence's ability shut it down. Like there was no consistent jabbing from Canelo. There was no consistent, really, attack outside of the one punch at a time. And Terence took advantage of that. He was like, listen, if you're just going to throw one at a time, I'm going to 2, 3, 4 times it. I'm going to tee off on these exchanges and then get out of dodge before I get hurt. And he was so smart about it. I can't say enough about the performance, man. Wow. What a performance. And it leaves us with the question that I think everybody coming into this fight wanted to know about Terence Crawford. The question was he as good as his record indicated? For this fight, 41-0, 31 knockouts. Was he as good as that record indicated? Was he as good as the 2 times undisputed? Was he as good as advertised? Because, well, Errol Spence after the car crash, which I fully believe is not the same Errol Spence that he was beforehand. Not taken away from Terence Crawford's win. What he did was incredible that night. Well, the Madrimov fight didn't look super crazy. Do we just look at Madrimov and go, damn, Madrimov's pretty fucking good now? Or was it just a Styles makes fights thing? What I learned tonight was not only is Bud Crawford as good as we thought he was, he's better. That's the craziest part about this. I didn't think we were going to come out of this fight and say, Bud is better than I think. And I'm doing that right now. He is better than I thought he was. The way he completely dismantled Canelo Alvarez. I mean, Dimitri Bivol did something similar, but this was a smaller man taking some of that power. Again, smaller man. Didn't really make a difference. He was big. Taking that power, dealing with it, and getting to work, and making Canelo deal with him and his power and his volume and fighting his fight. That was the craziest part of it. Outboxing Canelo completely and utterly. And then the question becomes now, not is he as good as we thought he was? Is Terence Crawford one of the greatest boxers ever? And when I say that, I mean, is he, on Mount Rushmore? I don't know. That's so tough. That's 4 places. 4 places in boxing. And I don't want to be the guy that gets caught up in the moment and gets prisoner of the moment. But I'll say this. He is one of the greatest of this generation. He is the greatest, by the way, of this generation. Not one of. I'm sorry. I misspoke. He is the greatest of this generation. And when we're talking about greatest of all time, I can put him there. If we're talking top 10, yeah, Terence Crawford. I think he's in there. Top 15 at least. But as far as Mount Rushmore goes, I mean, it's so tough. You have Floyd Mayweather there. You have Manny Pacquiao there. You have Roy Jones there. You have Muhammad Ali there. There's so many guys that have put on that list. Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. There's so many. And it's really tough to start picking between 1 and 10, and you can interchange some people and all of that. But he's definitely one of the greatest fighters, boxers, I have ever seen. And tonight proved that. I can't say enough how about impressed I am. I know I picked Canelo. It did not go the way I thought it would. And I'm happy with that because I got to see a generational performance. That's what I got to see. Whether you guys enjoyed all of the card or not, listen, Christian Mbili and Lester Martinez was an insane fight. Fight of the year candidate. Callum Walsh and Fernando Vargas Jr. probably shouldn't have been in the co-main event, but still, good enough fight. How about Boacek and Adams? That was another insane fight. I can't say enough about, I think, a success here. A massive success. We'll see what the numbers look like, but I couldn't give a shit, really. But a massive success, I think, for the Ring Magazine, for Zuffa Boxing, for Netflix. By the way, John Anik, Max Kellerman, Andre Ward on the comms tonight. Did that not feel like a breath of fresh air? I don't care what you guys say about John Anik. I've seen people be, he's an MMA guy, sounds like an MMA guy. Get the fuck out of here. He absolutely killed that shit. Andre Ward, he has this just innate ability to make very difficult things to describe very easy to describe. Like the way he walks you through a fight and what's happening. And then you got Max who's rolling off of that and feeding it back to Andre. And that was an incredible call on all their parts. Max had great questions for both fighters at the end. I thought stupendous. Well done all around. But the night goes to Bud Crawford. And I don't really know what happens next with him. I was going to ask the question that we leave off with. I genuinely don't know. I think he might retire. And I think it would make all the sense in the world if he did. Is he going to stay at 168 and defend those belts? I doubt it. What's left for him to do below that? The Boots fight? Virgil Ortiz? Because I would assume he'd want to go back to 154. What else is there? Maybe a rematch, but do we really need to see one? I'm sorry. I'm not trying to sound disrespectful to Canelo, but do we really need to see a rematch? What goes differently that next fight? Does Canelo all of a sudden become a changed fighter, a different fighter than we saw tonight? Does he become someone that is now volume heavy, light on his feet, is able to track down? No, not to me. Because what I saw from Canelo tonight is what I saw from William Scull. What I saw in the Edgar Berlanga fight. This is how Canelo fights now. And that's just where it is. And I will say for Canelo, what else does he really need to do? One of the greats in this generation, not the greatest. That goes to Terence Crawford now. But what else does he have left? I'm not sure where he would go next. Again, outside of a rematch, I think he might be done. Maybe not. Maybe there's other fights out there. I'm just going to say this. And people, before you get upset at me, this is the only thing that just popped into my head. It probably won't happen this way. There is a fight with Jake Paul out there. I don't know if that's something that Canelo would do. I don't know if that's something the Ring Magazine would want. Probably not. But it's not as wacky, I think, now as it potentially was when it was first being talked about. And I don't know if the Canelo even wants it. I'm just saying, whatever happens with this Jake and Tank fight, the Canelo one would be a little less wacky than that. Wouldn't it? I don't know. But my voice is almost gone. And I just wanted to get this video out to you guys ASAP as soon as possible. And just let you know that I hope you understood what you just saw from Terence Crawford. As someone that has seen his competitive nature up front and personal, as someone that has watched this entire build, has watched his confidence grow and grow, has seen what he put on Twitter after, I don't know if it was him or somebody else on Twitter after he won. What did he say? This one's for the nobodies? Is that what he said? Yeah, look at this. For all the nobodies. For all the nobodies. And then there's this.
Me.
Look,
it's gonna be me.
I don't care about nobody else.
And you will see that.
So when I beat you, is you gonna be a nobody? When I stump a mud hole in your ass, is you gonna be a nobody? Same shit everybody else been saying since I moved to 147. I ain't fought nobody. Every last one of them stump a mud hole in their ass, and he gonna be next. Watch.
Live.
He said it there, and he did it tonight. Terence "Bud" Crawford is the new undisputed super middleweight champion of the world. 3 times undisputed, 42-0, 31 knockouts. He left no doubt. Now, with all that being said, I think it's time to admit that he is one of the greatest of all time. As far as what happens next for him, for Canelo, I don't know. I don't have those answers, but I do know this was I think, rousing success. Congrats to the Ring Magazine. Congrats to Netflix. Congrats to Bud. Congrats to everybody on the card. Zuffa Boxing, Dana White. I thought it was a great show, and I have no idea what happens next, but I'm excited. So, guess we'll find out.